I'm going to show you how to build this AI, which pretty much takes in a CSV file and then you can ask any questions about it like you're seeing on screen right now. We are going to be using Streamlit, LangChain and Google Gemini as our large language model. Now, if you don't know what this means, that's completely fine. I'll make sure to properly show you how to implement all of this. Now, with that said, let's get into the code. So here we got the main py file, and then I've also got in a txt file which says requirements.txt. Now from this file, we're going to install all of the modules that we will be needing for this project. The first one that we will need is going to be Streamlit. I'm just going to type in Streamlit as it is, and then we will also be using a submodule which is called as Streamlit Chat. Let me just type that out as well. After these two is done, then we'll be using LangChain and then two other submodules of it. So let me first write LangChain, and then I will be using LangChain _ experimental, and this is actually imported because we want to use LangChain agents. Now if you're working with text, then you would probably use LangChain chains, but then over here we are working with numbers and basically a database itself, which actually is better handled by LangChain agents, and that is only available in LangChain experimental. So make sure to type that out over here. And then I'm also going to import LangChain _ Google Gen AI. Now this is the module which is going to make it easier for us to use the Google Gemini directly. So I'm also going to import that as well. That's all the things that we need. Now in order to run this, actually let me just open a terminal. And over here, click on new terminal. Then over here, pip install. Make sure to include -r and then type in requirements.txt like that and press enter. Now this is going to install all of the modules that we just mentioned over here onto your actual Python interpreter. Now after the installation is done, you want to get to your main py file. I'm just going to call this to be PrivateGPT for our CSV. And I'm going to first start by importing Streamlit. This will make sure that we first lay out the interface itself. And I'm going to just type in import Streamlit as st like that. And then I'm going to start by typing in st.title. Pass in a title for your interface. I'm just going to call this like this. And that's about it. You've created an interface with the title chat with your CSV file. Now I'm not going to leave it as it is. What I'm going to do after this is basically type in st.fileUpload function, file uploader. Now this is going to create a box where the user can actually upload a file. I'm going to have a text over here as well. And I can also get to mention the type, which will be CSV for our case. Now, we will be using this file for the later purpose. I'm just going to put this inside a variable. Actually, let me just call this uploaded file like that. And now run this code. So in order for you to actually launch the Streamlit application itself, first make sure you run the code that you've just written. This will make sure that there is no error in the code. And then it will give you a command over here. Just copy this and paste it over here and click enter. That's going to take you to your browser where it will actually show you the interface. Over here, we see that we get an interface which says chat with your CSV, and then there is a box for us to upload our CSV file, which when you actually upload a CSV file is going to appear over here. Now after this is done, we're going to directly import our large language model, which will be Gemini Pro, and in order for us to use that, you will need an API key. In order to obtain that, what you got to do is get to this site and make sure that the model selected is Gemini 1.0 Pro. If 1.5 is available, you can also use that. I'm going to go to get an API key. And over here, I already have got a couple of API keys, but then in order for you to create something new, just click on create API key, and all you have to do is create API key in the existing project. Click on that. Now this is going to generate an API key, which you're going to copy and get back to your code file. And what we have to do here is create our large language model. I'm just going to call this to be Gemini LLM. And remember that we imported LangChain.Google Gen AI, which is what I'm going to import over here. From LangChain Google Gen AI, I'm going to import chat Google Generative AI. Now this function is basically going to make it so much easier for us to import the model itself. I'm just going to use it over here. And then you get to first mention the initial parameter, which will be Gemini Pro. That. And then you will have to mention your API key, which we just copied. Just type in API key, then it's going to give you the suggestion. Google API key will be, paste the API key that you just accumulated. Now don't worry, I will be deleting this API after the recording is done. And then I'm also going to mention the temperature of our model. This will just tell how much the model has to be creative. I'm just going to set this to 0.01. We just want the answer for our actual question, and there should be no creative responses. Now this will be our large language model. Now what we have to do here is implement this inside our agent, and in order for us to do that, first we will have to make sure that the user has uploaded a CSV file. So what I will do here is type in if uploaded file is not none. Just have to type in is not none, just like this. And then we can make sure to create an agent, and to create an agent we need the LangChain experimental, because from this we can actually import all of the agents available in LangChain. So what I'm going to do here is type in from LangChain experimental dot agents. We want to import create CSV agent. Now this is what we will be working on. I'm just going to copy this over here and then paste it. Now here you will have to first mention your large language model. I'm just going to have the Gemini LLM that we just created, and then you will also have to pass in the uploaded file, so that we have as a variable, and then I'm also going to set verbose equal to true. Now the reason why I'm setting this to true is it will give us all of the background information of how the model is processing the question and how is it thinking, what is the kind of action that it's taking based upon the question. We can see all of this. So if you want to set this to false, then you can do that, but then you will only get the response rather than actually looking at the background processing. So I recommend you to set this to true. Now all of this is done, our agent is created. It's just going to basically take in our uploaded file as well as the large language model. Now we have to get the actual question from the user, and then we can give it to our Gemini LLM. What it will do is look at the uploaded file and then give us an actual answer based upon looking at it and accumulating all of the information. So we want to actually have this in a chat format where the user asks in a question and then the machine is actually giving us a response, and then we want to store that in the chat format. So in order to save all of those logs,
Steemit actually gives us a functionality called session state. Basically what this does is create list of elements which will allow us to save all of the logs that we want to. So in order to show you how this works is, let's say I want to create a list name generated. Let me just type in generated. If this generated is not actually in the logs of the session state that I just mentioned, that is not in st.session_state. Now again, this feature is responsible for storing all of the logs that we want to. If this generated list is not available in session state, then we want to actually create a generated list inside of the session state. So let me just put this inside an if condition and then have it over here. And what I will do is type in st.session_state, and then you get to mention the generated list. Over here, you can just type in, mention this. We're going to put this inside of a list, because later we can add as many as elements that we want to this. So it's going to type this to be like this. Now what this will do is act as though this generated list that we just created will be the machine responses. So initially the response that we want from the machine is going to be, hello, ask me anything about the CSV file. It's going to have this to be inside of the generators. And then I'm also going to create one for the user. I'm just going to call this to be passed. So let me just actually copy these two lines
and paste it over here. Name this to be passed, and then having a simple hey statement like this. Now, after this is done, we can actually get to the processing itself. That is the user asking the question about the CSV file, and then the Gemini LLM that we created is going to look at the data and then generate the response. So in order for us to do that, we will have to first get the user question, that is the input from the user, and then provide it to the Gemini LLM or the agent itself. So what I will be doing is first typing in with st.form, and inside this I will mention key will be my form, clear on submit will be true. Now what this will do is it will actually execute the following statement that we're going to mention over here with a form created over here. Now, what this form will do is it will create basically a box of where the user can actually ask the question. And when the user presses enter, or when the user presses the submit button, all of the information entered in that box will be cleared, and then it will be added to generated, which is what we're going to mention over here. So that's why I've given here as clear on submit equal to true. Now what I'm going to do here is type in user question, which will be use the st.textInput function. Now this is the function which will be responsible for getting the text input from the user. So we're going to type in query and put a colon. We'll first type in placeholder, talk to your data here. Again, I will mention the key to be as input, like that. Now I'm also going to create a button, just like a submit button. When the user presses it, and then all of the information entered inside of that box will be cleared. Submit button equal to st.form submit. Then you will mention a label, this to be send, like that. Now once this is done, you can get out of the with statement that you created and then actually add in the user question to the past list that you created inside of the session state, and then you can add in the corresponding output or the generated response by the machine to the generated list. So I'll show you how to do that over here. If user question is not none, make sure that the user actually gives in a question, and user question is not equal to an empty string, like that. And what I can do over here is first type in another with statement, st.spinner, and say this. Let me just type in text will be in progress, dot dot dot. This will just kind of act as a text input along with the spinner saying that the machine is actually processing the question and generating a response. Just going to type this in. So the main output will be use the agent dot invoke function. Then inside this you will actually pass in the user question like that, and then an output will be generated in the format of a dictionary where you will need the output key learn. So it's going to pass in output. Now we get the output itself. What I'm going to do is add the user question, that is this one, to past, and then the generated output to the generated list. So what I will do here is I will first make sure to put this inside actually the with statement itself. st.sessionState of past will be the user question. Just use the append function, user question, to do this the second time, and then generated will be the corresponding output. So what have we done here? We have made sure that the user question is first not none, and then we're providing that to the agent that we created, and then it will give us a corresponding output, storing that inside of a variable. What I'm doing here is finally adding in the user question to past, and then adding the corresponding output to the generated list that we created earlier. Now that is done. Now all we have to do is actually print this on our interface itself, on our application. So what I'm going to do over here is first making sure if st.sessionState of generated is not none, which is basically true. We've already created a generated list inside of session state if it's not available, and once it's available, adding all of our generated output onto that list itself. So this is just to make sure that the list is not actually empty. And then I will introduce a for loop for I in range of the generated list, that is st.sessionState. Again, access the generated list that we created, and I'm first going to identify the length of the generated list. So what I will do here is type in the length function and put this inside of this like this. Now this will give us a number that I is going to iterate over it as many times. So what I will do over here is access the ith response and the ith question of the user, and to do this is actually just typing in as session state, once again accessing the past list, and then over here you will mention I. This will give it the ith index question of the user itself, and then I'm actually going to display that on our interface. So to do this, I will type in the st.message statement from the sub module we imported. So you will have to import that over here. Just get over here and type in from Streamlit_chat, we want to import message. Now this is the function that we will be using to actually display the messages that we have, which is in the format of a list in past and in generated. So what I'm going to do here is type in message, and this message will be printed. And in order for us to print this in the user section, we have to type in is user equal to true. Now this will make sure that the actual printed message, now this is the user message, and we want to print this on the right of our application, and hence I'm mentioning is user equal to true. Now you don't have to do this for the machine generated response, then you're going to get actual output on the left hand side. We'll also have an avatar style, which will be, let's say, big smile. I'm just going to have this like this. This is going to be the actual icon of the user message, and we will have to do this for the machine generated output. I'm just going to copy, paste it. What I will do is just change this to generated, and we're getting the ith response as well. Now just take this user equal to true. Let me actually add in thumbs over here, or thumbs like that, and that's about it. We have created our chatbot, and then we have made sure that the message is actually displayed on our interface. So now all we have to do is actually test it, but before that, let me just summarize what we have done so far. We have created a blank interface which basically takes in a CSV file, and then I've created a large language model which will be Gemini LLM, and then we've used the chat Google Generative AI, which will first take in the model that we want, and then we will have to mention the Google API key along with the corresponding temperature. Now after the LLM is created, now we're getting to actual interface itself, where we're first checking if the uploaded file is not none. Then we are creating our CSV agent, which takes in our LLM, also the uploaded file, and then we're mentioning verbose equal to true to actually look at all of the details that is happening in the background. And after that is done, what I'm doing here is creating two separate lists inside of the session state, which is just basically a functionality in Streamlit, which will allow us for us to keep all of the logs that has happened before. And what I've done here is created a generator list, first initializing it to some message, and I've also done that for the user as well. and then made sure I've created a user question variable, which basically takes in the input text from the user, and then I've also created a submit button. And then after coming out of it, I'm first checking if the user question is not none. Then I've created a spinner that is just a loading symbol that you would generally see, and then I've also appended a text known as in progress. With that, I've used the agent.invoke function, which will take in the user question and then make sure that the output is generated, which will be in the format of a dictionary where we access the output and then store that inside of the output variable. Now once that is done, we have uploaded all of those to session state where we created the past list and the generated list, and then we are actually displaying that using the message function from Streamlit chat. Again, to just simply click on run, this is going to make sure that there is no errors in your code explicitly, and then it's going to generate a command. Alright, then we get the command itself. Just going to copy this streamlit run.our code file. Just going to paste this and click enter. This will shoot us to our browser, and there we go. We get to see our interface. Let's just try how this works. I'm just going to drag and drop a series CSV file. I'm just going to have it as it is, and I'm going to ask in the question of what is the data about. What are the details inside of this data? Now here we have asked two questions, but before that we have actually initialized the two statements, which is displayed over here. Now remember that these two lists are passed and generated, and then we've used the message function to display this. Now when I press enter, this query is actually going to be executed where we see the spinner along with the in progress text that we appended. Now once that is done, and it's going to give us the response for the question that we asked, it says that the data is about TV shows, and then it gives us all of the details available. I'm going to ask another question over here. Let's say something complicated, title of the show, and then the rating. So I'm going to ask the title, name the title of the show, which had the most rating. And it gives us the exact answer of the show that we asked for. Now in order to show you how the background processing works, I'm going to get to the code editor itself. And over here, when you look at the terminal itself, let's just look at this terminal. This is the question that we asked for. And this is about getting the title of the show that got most amount of rating. And here it says first, I'm just going to enter into a new agent executor chain. And it's going to first give us a thought of what it has to be taken, and then it takes in a corresponding action. This is based upon the tools that are available for the model, so it's not going to be visible directly for us. And then once the actual output is displayed, it's going to take in the output and then display it to us as well. Now here, look at what has happened. Now since we're working with CSV file, the file is actually passed into the model as a pandas data frame. And here it uses the pandas sort values function by rating to get the maximum rating, and out of which it'll get the title first, and that is going to give us the actual output. Now if you look at the first question that we asked, what it has done here is actually it has decided to first look at the data itself by using the .head function to look at the first 5 rows of the data, and then to come to a conclusion of what is the data about, and then it creates a generated text which it considers as the final answer, and that will be printed as our answer.